Okay, we are live. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our weekly Thursday night Parashat Shavua Shiur. Here we are broadcasting live in Thornhill, Ontario, and we welcome everybody listening live, watching live, or listening in the future on YouTube, on our podcasts, and or anywhere you hear your podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's good to have people listening to Torah, no matter what time of day it is, no matter what time of year it is. There's no question that Parashat Yitro ranks in the order of Parashiot of the Torah as one of the most prominent, given the stories that take place within it. Of course, there is arguably no greater climax in world history, let alone Jewish history, than the giving of the Torah on Mount Sinai, on Har Sinai, which takes place in this week's parasha that we are going to read in this week's parasha that we're going to celebrate. We're going to celebrate next in a few months' time, in the holiday of Shavuot. Parashat Yitro is named after a man who was Moshe's father-in-law. And what we're going to talk about today, a little bit about this man. We're going to talk about what he contributed specifically to the Jewish world. And we will see that this contribution was so vital that it actually helped protect the Jewish people. I want to start today by opening the opening pasuk of the parasha. Vayishma Yitro Kohen Midian Hoten Moshe. That Yitro, the priest of Midian, the father-in-law of Moshe, heard Et kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe u'Yisrael. Everything that Hashem did to Moshe and the Jewish people. Ki hotzi Hashem et Yisrael miMitzrayim, where Hashem took them out of Egypt. Can I just ask you to bring me a chumash, if you don't mind? There's one with Rashi. So Rashi here opens up by asking the following question. Mashem Shama. What exactly, any stone chumash is fine. Yeah, that one's fine. That's good. Mashem Shama. What exactly did Yitro hear? You tell me, what did he hear? Okay. And what report did he hear that prompted him to come? So Rashi very famously writes, Keriyat Yam Suf Milchemet Amalek. He heard the splitting of the sea. CNN, Fox News, he heard that the sea split, and he heard of the war of Amalek. So a lot of the Mefarshim want to ask, why does Rashi specify that he heard Kiryat Yamsuf and Milchemet Amalek? The pasuk already tells us, Vayishma Yitro et kol asher asa Elohim leMoshe u'Yisrael amo. Okay, he heard everything that God did. Included in that is the splitting of the sea and the war of Amalek. So what exactly is he adding? And the truth is, there is no mention of the war of Amalek here. It just is all that God did to the Jewish people. Now, additionally, we have to consider the fact that Yitro merited adding a parasha to the entire Torah. The parasha is found in this week's parasha. Ve'ata techezeh mikol ha'am. The parasha of Moshe appointing judges. That was based on the advice of Yitro. Because Moshe Rabbeinu thought at the time he was doing it by himself. Right? Imagine 600,000 men, 2 million people, one man judging all of them. Yitro says, Moshe, it just can't happen. So he gave him that advice to create the first ever judicial system. And this came on his zechut. In fact, Rashi says in the same opening pasuk, Sheva Shemot Nikreu Lo, that he had 7 names Yitro. Reuel, Yeter, Yitro, Chobab, Heber, Keni, Putiel. Why was he called Yeter? Yeter means Yoter, more. Al Shem Sheyiter Parasha Achat Patorah Be'ata Techezeh. He added this parasha of the judges. He's given the name Yeter. He goes on to say Yitro because he was mitkayel. Okay, because he became a convert. Osifulo ot achat al shemo. Okay, they added the letter Vav, which is one of the letters of Hashem's holy name. So okay, they come from Yeter to Yitro. Okay, but his name was Yeter because one of the names he had was Yeter because he added this parasha. So he merited this distinction. Okay. Because he sanctified the name of Hakadosh Baruch Hu, because Yitro was a Kohen Midian. Yitro was the priest of the Midianites, and he was worshiping all the Avodah Zarah in the world, and he abolished them. All these forms of idolatry, when he proclaimed, Ata yadati ki gadol Adonai mikol ha'elohim, where Yitro said, now I know that Hashem is greater than all the gods. And Rashi there comments, that tells what do you mean Mikol Elohim, from all the gods? Because Yitro was familiar with all the gods. He knew about all of them. Every single Avodah Zarah, the ones in Thailand, the ones in Singapore, the ones in China, the ones in India, he knew all. And that's why the fact that he was able to push those aside, Ataya Dati Ki Gadol Hashem, now I know Hashem is the one. Okay? He was Zoche to have that distinction of Yeter Yitro. But why did he merit such a great distinction to have a parasha mentioned in his name, this additional parasha? That's what we're going to talk about today. The Zohar says that Hashem, in his infinite wisdom, he arranged that Yitro to convert and unite with Moshe prior to Matan Torah. It had to be done. The Zohar explains that in the realm of Kedusha, the realm of holiness, there is a king and then there is a Kohen. And the king is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, king of all kings. And the Kohen is actually the Malach Michael, who is offering korbanot on heavenly mizbechot. That's what the Zohar writes. And we see this in many places. Gemara Masechet Chagiga. Okay, the fourth rakia is called Zevul. Okay, and then we talk about how Michael is offering korbanot up there in Shamayim. Now, Ze leuma ze asa Elokim. If there is a king and a kohen in the heavenly spiritual realm, then there is a king and a kohen in the realm of impurity. Ze leuma ze asa Elokim, Shlomo Melech says. Who is the king and the priest in the realm of Tum'ah? Paro is the king, and Yitro is the Kohen in the realm of Tum'ah. Paro had to negate Hashem being king of all kings, and he did so when he declared, Mi Hashem, Asher Eshma Bekolo. Who is this God that I shall listen to? And Yitro was the priest, because he embraced, like we said, every form of idol worship, every form of Avodah Zarah. That was his function as the Kohen of this negative force of the Klipa. The Zohar says that it was impossible for Hashem to give the Torah to the Jewish people until Hashem shattered this king and this Kohen of the negative forces. Paro refused to recognize Hashem. He was invalidated. How? 10 plagues. Came the Eser Makot, and he was forced into confessing, Chatati Yapam Adonai Atzadik, Ani V'ami HaReshaim. Paro finally said, I sinned. Hashem is the righteous one. Me and my nations are the sinners. And then it was enhanced by Kiryat Yamsuf, the splitting of the sea, when the whole army was drowned. And of course, he was kept alive so that he can see that. Yitro, on the other hand, he was the Kohen Midian, he was the priest of Midian. He was subjugated when he left, like we said, he abandoned all the forms of idolatry. But if you look deeper, it's clear that the king of the Klipa, Paro, was subjugated involuntarily. It was forced upon him, the 10 plagues. The Makot, Kriyat Yamsuf. The Kohen, which was Yitro, he was submitted voluntarily. I want to do it myself. In fact, the Gemara Masechet Sotah, the Yud Aleph Amud Aleph, talks about how there were 3 people that were next to Paro giving the advice. Paro had 3 major advisors. One of them was Bilam, one of them was Iyov, and one of them was Yitro. Bilam, when it came to the what to do with the Jews, Bilam was the one who advised, throw them in the water. It was his advice. What happened to Bilam? He was killed. Iyov, Shatak. Iyov kept quiet. I'm not getting involved. You know those guys? I'm not getting involved. I was just stay quiet. He still got punished. Shatak nidon beisurim. His punishment. He wasn't killed, but he experienced the worst affliction. Read the book of Iyov. Lo alenu lo alechem. What Iyov experienced, all the affliction. Yitro shebarach. Yitro says, I want nothing to do with this. I'm out. I don't want to hear about throwing Jewish babies in the river. I'm out. He ran away. Zachu min bnei banav sheyeshvu belishkat hagazit. He was zoche that his great grandchildren would sit in the lishkat hagazit as members of the Sanhedrin. So he submitted totally voluntarily by converting and says, I want to join this people. Now I know. Atayadati ki gadol Hashem mikol Elohim. So it makes sense. It's easy to understand why Yitro, Kohen Midian, merited adding a parashat to the Torah, because Israel could only receive the Torah once the king and the priest of the klipot, of the negative influence, were subjugated. So he was awarded this tribute as the one who says, I want nothing to do with the Avodah Zarah anymore. He was given this gift. And he did it voluntarily, unlike Paro. So it was in his merit that Bnei Israel received the Torah. Okay, very nice. Baruch Hashem. But we need to go a little bit deeper. We're going to go a few levels deeper tonight. One of the great Mekubalim, which quoted in this class before, Rabbi Shimshon Miostropoli, he says, with regards to what Paro told Moshe Rabbeinu in Parashat Bo, the beginning of Parashat Bo. The Pasuk says, in Perek Yud, Pasuk Yud, Vayomer Alehem, Paro said to Moshe, after Moshe says, we're all going to leave. Yeichen Adonai imachem, so be Hashem with you, kasher ashalach etchem ve'etapechem. When I send you and your children, Re'u kira'a neged penechem. These words, see that evil faces you. Ra'ah. What does it mean? What does Paro mean when he says, by the way, when you go, evil is going to face you? So Rashi addresses this. Very famous Rashi. Rashi quotes a midrash. Shamati, kochav echad yesh sheshmo ra'ah. There's a star in the heavens. The name of this star is Ra'ah. Ra'ah means evil. Amar lahem Paro. Paro told Moshe and Aaron, Ro'eh ani be'itzdagnut sheli. I can see with my astrologers. Oto kochav ole likratchem bamidbar. This star is going to attack you in the desert. It's going to cause you a lot of problems. Vehu siman dam bahariga. It is a sign of blood and killing. You're going to face that. This is what he's telling Moshe and Aaron. Now, what happened? This actually did come true. Rashi says when the Jewish people later on in history, they worshipped the golden calf. Ubikesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu lehargam. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted to kill them, all those that worship. Amar Moshe b'tfilato. What did Moshe say in his tefillah? Lama yomeru Mitzrayim lemor bera'ah hotziam. This is what we say when we read the parasha in the fasting. Why will the Egyptians say bera'ah hotziam? With evil he sent them out. Zohi shama lahem re'u kira'ah neged penechem. This is what Paro was trying to tell you. You're going to go to the desert. Something bad's going to happen. Everyone's going to die. There's going to be blood. He didn't know it was going to be the Chet HaEgel, but that's exactly what happened. And Paro's warning them now before they even left. You're going to hit this star, and it's going to cause you big problems. So when God wanted to destroy Am Yisrael after the Chet HaEgel, Moshe prays to God. He says, you're going to let Paro be right? You're going to let him, this is what he predicted. This is going to go down in history. Miyad vayinachem Hashem al hara'ah. So Hashem had consolation on the ra'ah, on the evil. Ve'afach et adam ledam hamilah shema liYoshua ota. And he changed the blood from blood of death to the blood of Brit Milah, and he made Yoshua circumcise them after they went into Eretz Yisrael, as he went into Eretz Yisrael. This is the Rashi. So now, beautiful. It's a very famous Rashi. But Rav Shimshon Ben Sopoli is puzzled by this. He goes, okay, Hashem transformed this omen of blood of death to the blood of Milah. But how exactly did he mitigate the power of Ra'ah? How did he take this star and negate its powers? So he quotes a midrash in Bereshit Rabbah, in Bamidbar Rabbah, that says the following: Kol HaTorah Kula Ra'ah Parashiot. The whole Torah has 275 parashiot. Ra'ah, Reish, Ayin, Hey, 275. So the ill effects of the star named Ra'ah are nullified by the 275 parashiot of the Torah. So he actually then goes on to explain the implications of the private conversation that Moshe had with HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the beginning when they first meet by the burning bush. Vayomer Moshe Elokim, Moshe says to God, Mi anochi ki elech el Paro. Who am I to go to Paro? V'chi otzi et bnei Yisrael min Mitzrayim. Vayomer, God said, Ki imach, don't worry, I'm going to be with you. V'zeh lecha od ki ani shalaticha v'otzicha min Mitzrayim, ta'avdun et Elohim al hahar hazeh. Hashem says, don't worry, I'm going to give you a sign, and the sign is that you're going to come back to this mountain, that's Har Sinai, and you're going to serve me on this mountain. So this is actually signaling how the klipot, the Torah was going to negate the Ra'ah. Because as head of the klipah of Mitzrayim, Paro possessed 355 forces of Tumah. Named by his name, Paro, 355. Moshe Rabbeinu was 80 years old when he first met Paro. Oh no, he met Paro when he was young, but when he approached Paro to get the Jews out, he was 80 years old. Moshe ben 80 shana v'daberam et Paro. He was 80. So the Mekubalim say that out of the 355 negative forces that Paro had, Moshe could only negate 80 of them, based on his name. So of the name Paro, Pei, Reish, Ayin, Hey, the Pei is gone. Because Pei is 80. In fact, it's hinted in the Pasuk. Mi anochi ki elech el Paro. Mi and ki. Mi is 50, ki is 30, 80. So I only have the value. That's what his complaint was to God. Mi anochi. Who am I? I don't have the kedusha innate inside me to go and nullify Paro's tumah. I can't do it. To which Hashem says, don't worry. I'm going to be with you. And the sign is, when you're going to take the people out of Mitzrayim, you're going to come back here and serve me on this mountain. Rashi says, what's serving on this mountain? You're going to get the Torah. You're going to receive the Torah on Har Sinai. In the future, on this mountain, you're going to accept the Torah that has 275 parashiot, equaling the Reish, Ayin, and Hey that is left in Paro's name. The Pei has already been negated with Moshe, and you're left with the Reish, Ayin, Hey, 275, and those parashiot nullify the remaining 3 letters in Paro's name, and that's your sign. Amazing. In fact, another allusion to something we're going to read later on, when the commandment to build the kelim of the Mishkan, the pasuk says, "Ve'asita kiyor nehoshet." You shall make a copper kiyor. Kiyor is a wash basin. The word ve'asita and you shall make implies a tikkun, something you're to make. And kiyor stands for kochav yesh ushmo ra'ah. There is a star, and its name is ra'ah. Like we said, that star ra'ah that brings evil. And how are you to be metaken this kochav ushmo ra'ah? Through nechoshet. Nechoshet is novlot chokhmah, the flowing of wisdom shel mala. Novlot chokhmah shel mala, Torah. The Torah is what's able to negate this evil star of Abraham. So, what are we saying now? We already learned that Yitro was responsible for the addition of the parasha of the Torah. That addition of that parasha of the judges, brought the number to 275. That was the 275th parasha. And in merit of that, those three letters were negated from Paro's name, Reish Ayin Hey. So look at that. We have this incredible partnership between Yitro and Moshe Rabbeinu, which nullified all of Paro's name. The Pei was Moshe, and the Reish Ayin Hey was Paro. And this is the unbelievable orchestration by HaKadosh Baruch Hu at this point. Before assigning Moshe the task to go to Paro and take the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim, he makes him go to Midian, okay, to buy this well, and he meets the shepherds and the rock on the well and the daughters, also that he can marry one of Yitro's daughters, so he can make this relationship with Yitro. This whole scenario was set in motion so that Yitro would advise his son-in-law, hey, buddy, I love you, but you can't judge everybody. It's too much for you. You have to make courts. You have to make different levels of judges. You can't bear this leadership alone. And that parasha would be added to the Torah, so there's 275, and thus Yitro and Moshe united to nullify those forces. Okay, and that also makes sense of the Gemara that we quoted in Sotah, that there were three people who participated in giving advice to Paro, Bilam, Yov, and Yitro. We said Yitro was the one who ran away, and because of that, his children were zocheh to sitting in the Lishkat HaGazit. Since Yitro fled and objected to Paro's ra'ah, to Paro's evil, he merited assisting Moshe Rabbeinu in the 275th parasha, the ra'ah, his own ra'ah, but the 275 negating that. Beautiful idea. Okay, like I always say, we ended the shiur here. You walk out with tremendous chidush, and but there's more. Again, Rav Shimshon Me'Osropoli, he says, look at the pasuk, look at the passage. This extra parasha that Yitro merited in giving us. Pasuk says, Ve'ata techezeh mikol ha'am. Yitro tells Moshe Rabbeinu, I want you to look around, and I want you to go and select special people, Anshe Chayil, men of means, Yirei Elohim, God-fearing, Anshe Emet, Sonei Batza, men of truth, people who despise money, V'samta alehem, Sarei alafim, Sarei meot, Sarei chamishim, V'sarei asarot. You're going to have leaders of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, of tens, V'shavtu et ka'am becholet, and they're going to be the judges at all times. Every night during Arvit, prior to Barechut Hashem Mevorach, we recite a pasuk, very famous pasuk from Tehillim. Vehu rachum yechaper avon velo yashit ve'iba le'ashiv apo velo ya'ir kol hamato. And then we say Hashem Oshia Melech Yanim. According to a separate pasuk. But that pasuk of Vehu rachum is not a nice pasuk. It's a pasuk that we recite at funerals. We say at Avel when we're Tziduk Adin. It's a pasuk that deals with a lot of darkness. That pasuk contains 4 negative klipot. Vehu rachum yechaper avon velo yashchit ve'iba le'ashiv apo af velo ya'ir kol hamato chema. Af, mashchit, af, and chema are 4 negative klipot. Baruch Hashem, we end. That's what we don't just end the pasuk there. We add another one. Hashem Oshia Melech Yanim Yom Korenu. Hashem will bring us salvation. Okay, that's why we add that pasuk. Now, why do we do it at nighttime? Nighttime is always a time of darkness. It's a time of deen. It's a scarier time than it is during the day. Look what Rav Shimshon Me'Osropoli says. Prior to Yitro's conversion, because he was so dedicated to his Avodah Zarah, he was intimately connected to these 4 klipot. And therefore, to be metaken that, after he converted, he advised Moshe Rabbeinu to make leaders of thousands, of hundreds, of fifties, and of tens. And the words is alafim, me'ot, hamishim, and asarot. That's the words that the Torah uses, which also means literally thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. It's also the acronym of af mashchit chema avon. Alafim is aleph, is af, apo. Me'ot is hundred, which is mashchit. Hamishim is 50s, which is chema. And asarot is 10s, which is avon. And by appointing these judges, these tzaddikim, to judge Bnei Israel, that's how he was able to eliminate these 4 klipot. This is what he says. If you follow this idea, we can explain why Yitro merited to add the parasha aimed at combating the 4 klipot. The reason HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded us in the Torah to offer 4 types of korbanot in the Beit HaMikdash. Soon we're going to get to Sefer Vayikra, talked about all the korbanot. What are the 4 major korbanot? Hatat, Asham, Ola, and Mincha. And again, the first letter of each of those 4 korbanot. Hatat is Chet for Chema. Asham is Aleph for Af. Ola is Ain for Avon. And Mincha is Mem for Mashchit. The same 4. They negate each other. There's a Gemara in Masechet Menachot, Daf Kuf Yud Amud Aleph. The Gemara says, "My dichtiv." What's the meaning of the pasuk? Amar Rish Lakish. What's the meaning of the pasuk? When it says, "Zot haTorah laOla laMincha velaChatat velaHasham velaminu velasharim." What is the meaning when it says these are the Torah laws of the Ola, of the Mincha, the Chatat, and the Hasham? Rish Lakish says, "Kol ha'osek b'Torah ke'ilu hikriv Ola Mincha Chatat veHasham." Anyone who studies Torah, Zot haTorah. Whoever studies Torah is as if they brought all these korbanot. Very nice. Amar Rav says, Hai la ola la mincha. Why does it say Zot HaTorah la ola la mincha? Ola u mincha mi baile. It should just say Zot HaTorah ola u mincha. What's the lamed for? Ela Amar Rav gives a different explanation. Kol ha'osek b'Torah, anybody who studies Torah, eno tzarich lo ola, lo chatat, lo mincha, lo hasham. He doesn't require an olah, he doesn't require a mincha, he doesn't require, meaning the Torah is everything. You're not going to even need a korban. So it's not like you brought a korban, you don't even need the korban with your thing. So, Rish Lakish and Rav are actually teaching us a very profound lesson. We know that the main way to abolish all the klipot and the sitra achra is Torah study. Gemara Masechet Kiddushin, Daf Lamud Amud Bet, Barati Yetzirah, Barati Torah Tavli. We've quoted many times. The Kadosh Baruch Hu created the Yetzirah, and the remedy for this is the Torah. V'imatem oskim b'Torah, en atem nimsarim biyado. You study Torah, you're not going to be thrown into the hand of the Yetzer Hara. In fact, another Gemara Masechet Shabbat that we quoted here, Daf Lamud Amud Bet, also is that David HaMelech only died, okay, because for that split moment he stopped learning. But as long as he was learning, Malach HaMavet couldn't touch him. That's how protected he was. So says Rish Lakish, whoever engages in the study of Torah, it's like he brought Olah, Mincha, Chatat, and Hasham. He specified those korbanot, Olah, Mincha, Chatat, Hasham, because they're able to abolish all the klipot. The klipot of Avon, Mashchit, Chema, and Af. That's why he said, whoever studies Torah, it's as if he brought those 4 korbanot, because korbanot abolish the 4 klipot. And that's what Ravas meant as well. Whoever engages Torah doesn't need an Olah, doesn't need a Mincha, doesn't need a Chatat or a Hasham. Because he doesn't need, I have Torah. I don't even have klipot at all. The Torah protects me from the Yetzirah, protects me from the Malach HaMavet. Zot HaTorah la'olam mincha la'chatav ve'la'hasham. In fact, says Mefarshim, the gematria of Zot HaTorah equals Avon Mashchit Af Chema. You have the Torah. You don't even have the gates. Cancels out all of this evil, negative culture. Now, the evil force, the sitra achra, is called ra'ah. How do we know this? Pasuk Mishleh says, Shlomo HaMelech, Ashrei Adam mefached tamid. Praiseworthy is a man who always fears. Umakshe libo yipol bera'ah. But he who is stubborn, he falls bera'ah. Literally means misfortune. But a person needs to fear and revere HaKadosh Baruch Hu at all times. If he's reluctant to do so, if he's stubborn, I don't want to fear God, I'm not interested in Hashem, he's going to fall prey to what? To ra'ah, to this evil sitra achra. So, the parasha that was added in the Torah by Yitro, that Yitro gave to Moshe Rabbeinu, V'samta alehem sarei alafim, sarei meot, sarei chamishim, sarei asarot, were intended for what purpose? To nullify the four klipot of Af Mashchit, Chema, Ve'avon. That brought the total parashiot to 275, which counteract all the evil qualities of Ra'ah, that evil star, that evil force that's called Ra'ah, which is an omen for blood and death. And therefore, through this parasha, Moshe Rabbeinu was provided with a tactic to combat the four leading klipot that cause death and destruction in the world. Okay, good enough? Again, we could stop here and say, no, let's go one more. We still haven't answered the question. We haven't answered the question that we started with, which is why I even mentioned what Yitro heard of Kiryat Yamsuf u'Milchemet Amalek. Now we're going to get to that. Vayishma Yitro, ma shemu Shama, what did he hear? Kiryat Yamsuf u'Milchemet Amalek. How do we make sense of this? Amalek is actually found 3 times in the Torah. Twice, it is very clear. Parashat Beshalach, we read last week, the actual war. Later on in Kitetze, when we have the mitzvah to remember Amalek. But there's another time. Most people don't know about it. If you don't read the commentary, you don't know it's Amalek. It's found Sefer Bamidbar. Pasuk says, Vayishma, I think it's Parashat Chukat. Vayishma ha-Kenaani melech Arad. That the Kenaani, the king of Arad, heard, Yosef Negev, he was dwelling in the south, Ki ba Yisrael derech ha'atarim, that Israel had come by the route of the spies. Vayilachem Israel, he made war against Israel, Vayish bimenu shevi, and he captured a captive. So now, Rashi says, Vayishma Knani, what did he hear? What did he hear? He heard that Aaron died. Who dwelled in the south? What do you mean dwelled in the south? Knani, what do you mean dwelled in the south? So it says Rashi, this was Amalek. This king, Melech Arad, was Amalek, and he changed his language to speak like a Kenani. He changed his dress, he changed the language. But he really was Amalek because Amalek is in the south. Amalek dwells in the south. I've seen many other places. So the Klipa of Amalek and this Melech Arad are the same. So the Agra de Kala points out that the Gematria of Arad is 274. Ein Reish, 270. Dal is 274. Which also equal the Gematria of Rachel and Leah. Rachel is 238, Leah is 36, which equals 274. Implying that the Klipa of Amalek opposes Rachel and Leah. Now Rachel and Leah, the Imahot, the matriarchs, the holy matriarch, they're the ones that established the house of Israel. As we read in Megillat Ruth, we also recite it under the chuppah. The Moroccans have the custom to say this. Yiten Adonai ta'isha ba'al betecha kerachel u'chlea asher banu shetehem et bet Yisrael. That Boaz's bracha was that may Hashem make the woman who's coming to your house. Sorry, not Boaz. The Yisboni's bracha was that the woman coming into your house be like Rachel and Leah, who built the house of Israel. So Amalek, who opposes the kedusha of Israel, is called Arad. Since the Gematria of Arad equals Rachel and Leah. Look at what R Pinchas Friedman says. He says, in last week's battle with Amalek, the pasuk says, Moshe, Aharon, Vechur, Alu Rosa Giva. Moshe, Aharon, and Hur went to the top of the hill. Says of Shimshon Melsropoli, the first letters of Moshe, Aharon, and Hur, Mem, Aleph, Het, corresponding to 3 of those klipot we mentioned before. Mashrit is Mem, Moshe, Af is Aharon, and Hema is Hur. And they went to the top of the hill, alluding to the first letters of those klipot. So why doesn't the pasuk mention the elimination of the Avon, the Ain? Why is the Ain? So he explains that Moshe Rabbeinu needed to do that one on his own, and he eliminated that one by raising his hands. When he raised his hands, he inspired Bnei Israel to do teshuvah. The Torah describes, clearly says, "V'aya kasher yarim Moshe yado ge'avar Israel." When Moshe would raise his hands, the Jewish people were strong. Of course, the famous Mishnah, Masechet Rosh Hashanah, "V'chi yadav shel Moshe oso milchama shovrot milchama." Need to tell me that Moshe's hands dictate? No. What is it? Lomar lecha bizman she'isem mistaklin klape mala. When the Jewish people are doing teshuvah, they're looking up at God, they have faith in emunah in Hashem. Then mishabedin et libam la'avim sh'vasham yumitgabrim. They would become strong. That's the meaning of it. Reshit goyim Amalek. Amalek is the first of nations. Amalek is the source of all klipot. It has the capacity to invoke all of this negativity, all these evil forces. Avon, Mashchit, Af, Chema. And that's why it was necessary for Moshe, Aaron, and Hur to go up with their Kedushan to abolish these klipot. And that's why Amalek is referred to as king of Arad. That he possessed the power, chas v'shalom, to use these 4 klipot and cause harm to Am Yisrael. But, here's the kicker. That was only true before Yitro gave Moshe the advice and added the parasha, Ve'ata techezeh, which happened in this week's parasha. Now that he got the Ve'ata techezeh, it's now not 274, it's 275. And one more. Before, when it was only 274, the Torah only contained 274 parashiot. Amalek had power. Melech Arad, Vailahamu be'Yisrael, they fought Israel. But after Yitro's advice and the addition of this parasha, advising Moshe Rabbeinu to now create levels of a judicial system, thousands, hundreds, fifties, tens, to nullify the 4 klipot, now Amalek, represented by Arad, no longer can summon those powers. Because the Torah contains 275, which is one more than the 274. So when Bnei Yisrael are dedicated to the Torah and the mitzvot, they overpower Amalek. Amalek has no power. And hence, Rabotai, this is what Rashi meant. Vayishma Yitro, Kohen Midyan, Mashem Mashama. What did he hear? He heard Kiryat Yamsuf, Umilchemet Amalek. Rashi is saying, what events in history convinced Yitro, inspired Yitro to come and add another parasha? What happened in the world that made him jump up and say, I'm here? And Rashi says he heard about Kiryat Yamsuf. But Kiryat Yamsuf wasn't enough. Kiryat Yamsuf in itself wasn't enough because Amalek still had the audacity to come and cause harm to Bnei Israel. So Yitro concluded Arad still has the power because it's 274 parashiyot in the Torah. So he says, I gotta come. I saw what Amalek did. He's saying, I saw what Amalek just did to you guys. He still has that power. I'm gonna come and I'm gonna add one more parasha. I'm gonna add the parasha of Alafim, Me'ot, Hamishim, Asarot to negate Af, Chema, Avon, and Mashchit. And you brought up to 275, and you're able to overpower the Klipah of Amalek. What do we learn from here? Again, if Bnei Israel study Torah, we engage in Torah, if it becomes a part of us, we're able to remove all negativity in our lives. The Yetzer Hara has no power over us. There's no Sitra Achra. There's no Ra'ah. Why let, like Moshe Rabbeinu said, why let the Goyim win? Why you're going to let Paro say, I told you so? Because you didn't listen to me? We have the power. We have the ability to abolish the Klipah Amalek. We have the ability through our learning of a Torah to remove all the evil forces, to all the punishment, to all the horrible things, all the blood, all the mitah, all the things that are associated with the Malach HaMavet. All we got to do is we got to study Torah. We got to work hard for it. Bezat Hashem, through the study of Torah, we'll hasten the completion of the Geulah. Amen. Thank you for joining.